Well, all this, in addition to the ongoing Senate scandal, has many Canadians wondering what is up with our politicians and what happened to integrity in public office. Those questions are the fodder for Rex Murphy's cross-country checkup on CBC Radio 1 today, and he joins us now to talk about the show. Rex, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I get so few.
That's not true. First off, tell us a bit more about today's program. What are the main issues you guys are going to look at?
You've described it better than I've described it downstairs in the radio building. It is that. What are, in the current moment, if they exist at all, because that's a question other people may be asking, what are the standards for integrity in public office? What happened if there had been such a thing? What happened to the ancient ideas that if you really messed up, either in terms of policy or, depending on the degree, in personal deal, you actually resign because it'd be good for the office, it'd be good for the Senate, it'd be good for the city. What are the new terrain on which people, if they have done these things, as I said, there's different terrains here, personal in some cases and policy or position in another. When do people take account of this? And when do they say, it's my fault and I go?
I've also heard people almost describe it as, is it the death of shame in some ways? Which
Well,
is
it may be a trite point to make in the sense that it's frequently invoked, but it's a good one. Falklands War, when the Foreign Secretary from Margaret Thatcher, when that Falklands takeover took place, he had nothing to do with any kind of apprehension on the Falklands, but he was the Foreign Secretary. That's 30 or 40 years ago. He stood up, I resign, I take responsibility. I think that's a moment in political history that someone in a major power actually said, well, yes, it is my brief, and I do resign. Now, everything from Bill Clinton to the present mess with Obama to Mr. Ford here to the senators, does anybody accept that they're the author of their own mischiefs?
Right. And I understand that you spoke with some experts on standards for political resignation. Have they changed in Canada?
I absolutely think so. Even as a student in Memorial University, I can remember going to our own local legislature, and that was pretty brazen in the level of its conduct. But a ministerial responsibility did have some meaning. People got kicked out of cabinet over time. Now, it's this strange whirl and counter whirl. And Mr. Duffy's, for example, defense of his situation, or Pamela Wallin's. She will resign from boards because the cloud is over them, but not the Senate. That's the center institution. It isn't even a matter of whether this is warranted or not. At some point, if you're caught up in such a cloud that it's hurting the system, and probably in the case of Mr. Ford, hurting everybody who likes him, then do we not simply say, this is enough?
I'm running out of time, but I want to ask you quickly. I know you've been asking Canadians to weigh in on Rob Ford and the Senate scandal. What have you been hearing?
Well, the majority of it is, first of all, it's one of the most bleak and extended farces plus tragedies that we have ever seen. I think most people, by this point, I mean, the best thing I saw, I'll give you a quicker answer. When I saw Minister Flaherty, Peter Mansbridge at Issue played that clip on Thursday night of Minister Flaherty, almost in tears over the simple personal element of the story. I'm glad to see that there's a creeping of sympathy, even in the outrage, that there's some measure of charity or mercy going on to a situation that really is very sad.
Yeah. Well, it should be another good show today. And
that'll be the first.
All lies. Rex, thank you so much for being here. And you can catch Cross Country Checkup. It's coming up in just over 30 minutes on CBC Radio 1.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Rex.